Everyone. Happy Wednesday. So excited to be here with you. My name is Dana Snyder. I am the CEO and founder of Positive Equation, and I work with nonprofits on helping them really cultivate an online passionate audience of donors, supporters, advocates, and sponsors. So I'm really excited to be here with another session, another live interview. I do these, if you're not familiar, every first and third Wednesday of the month. I try and bring on nonprofit experts, new platforms or technology systems that I'm really impressed with to share with you, other nonprofit consultants, or even nonprofit executive directors or team members that are doing really cool things in the nonprofit space that I want to share with you. So if you are interested in joining me live for a conversation one week, I would love to have you. Just drop your name in the comment section or say, hey, I'd love to come on, and I will send you a note afterwards. Also, I wanted to do a quick announcement about Missions to Movements Mastermind. This is my 6-month mastermind program for nonprofit leaders, and you get to invite an additional staff member. Over the course of 6 months, there will be 12 guest coaches coming in to help you with your challenges, your goals across everything. And I'm talking about from thought leadership to team dynamics to systems and processes to marketing to ambassadors to working with Gen Z. We are going through everything. And the guest coaches are quite an incredible roster. So I did put the link in the comment section so you can apply and you can learn more. It is going to kick off in May. So I'm really excited about that. So check it out. But then today, let's get into kind of the nuts and the bolts of today's conversation. We are live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So if you're joining us, thank you for being here. I'm going to have joining me today, Jessica Payne. She is the founder and owner of Mockingbird Analytics. Mockingbird Analytics helps small to medium-sized nonprofit organizations tell their story. Through a variety of services, they help every nonprofit plan better, evaluate, fundraise, and ultimately build their organizational structure and scale. She's also the co-founder, which I think is pretty cool, of Mockingbird Incubator, which is a nonprofit that provides incubation services to new and emerging nonprofits. So today, what Jessica and I are going to be talking about is CRM, and specifically how to really find the right CRM for your organization. And I think there's a couple main things to think about when it comes to CRMs. I think a smart and effective CRM is really going to help you engage with all of your donors in the right way. That's a big point to learn more about them. Tools like CRMs, they also really help your team with capacity building. So if you're trying to go to your board of directors and they're like, we're not sure if this is worth our investment, having a software or something that can automate some of your daily tasks that your staff are doing can be really beneficial. And then number 3, if you know me, you know I'm all about data and how data helps to inform your strategy. So data coming from CRMs and having the reporting in one place can really help your team discover different insights that you might have not even known were possible. So ultimately, when you have the right CRM platform, it means you get to focus on expanding your mission and impact with the world. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over because I am not the expert in this space, and I'm going to bring on Jessica.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Did I do a proper job at explaining Mockingbird? We met in Los Angeles, and did we met through young nonprofit professionals, right?
Yes, we did. I think I recruited you to come teach at an event.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, thank you for being here. You have done a lot of work with a lot of different nonprofits, and I'm sure CRMs is a big conversation because it's oftentimes a big budget item.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So having that conversation is really important and diving through. So do you want me to go ahead and pull up your slides?
Yeah.
For what you'll be. Okay, awesome.
So, hello, everybody. We're going to be talking about how to choose the right database for your nonprofit, like Dana said. I think a lot of nonprofits really get stuck in this process of choosing the right system. There's a million products on the market right now. The secret, though, is that about half of them are still in beta, which means they're still being tested. They're still releasing new features, and it's really hard to sort of cut through the sales pitches to know what the actual state of the database is and whether it's actually going to be a good fit. The other thing that I think is really important is that salespeople are not necessarily users of their own products. So they will say, yes, obviously we do that thing. But you might later down the road find out, oh, the salesperson was wrong. So it's really important to keep that in mind as you are looking at databases. Definitely choose something that seems like a bigger, more well-established product is my very first rule of thumbs. But I want to start out with setting expectations and talking about what a CRM is supposed to do. And Dana kind of already covered that with like what you should be doing with your CRM, but it's really important to make sure that you have a good set of expectations going in so that you aren't disappointed or are clear on what you want the CRM to do at the end of the day. So a database can allow multiple collaborators to access and update information. You can aggregate that data for all of those analytics purposes that Dana was talking about, giving you really good insights into what your donors or your clients are doing over time. That's really what a CRM should be doing. It should be helping you with either the reporting of your organization, understanding, being able to talk about your work, or it should be helping you understand what your best practices are.
And I would love for anyone who's listening, if you currently have a CRM, what CRM platform do you use? Drop it in the comments. I would love to know, or if you're in the process of evaluating some, which ones are you looking at?
Yeah, we can go, if you drop those in the chat, like I can sort of go database by database and tell you what I know about them. But at the end of the day, a database is really to save you time. It's to help you improve processes, make sure that you are doing your due diligence with stewardship for your donors and your clients as well. A couple things that a database can't do. Databases are not like infinite unicorns that can do anything. They are set up with a set of processes. So databases are not going to run on their own without any oversight from you. It's not going to just be like open the box and everything is perfect. It is going to need some maintenance over time. Databases also can't make up for any gaps in your data, things that you aren't collecting. It's very much sort of like a the data that you put in is the data that comes out. So nothing is magically going to appear that you're not actually collecting. Can't fix your processes either. So if there's something going wrong with how you enter data, how you collect data, a database is not going to be the thing that fixes that. It's going to be how you do the work that needs to change. Also, your database can't adapt necessarily at the pace that your processes can. So it's important to sort of keep those in alignment and do things in your organization that you can adapt to your database. So things aren't, if you automatically update your forms, that doesn't mean your database is going to be automatically up to date. And like I said, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. No database is going to be the perfect fit for you as an organization right out of the box. And they're not going to tell you immediately how you're going to make more money. They are just going to collect the data for you to analyze and decide how to act on. So a couple questions that you should be asking yourself about your readiness are, how many clients are you going to be serving, or how many donors are you going to have as records in your system? That'll tell you about the size and the scope of the database that you need. Ask yourself how efficient your current tracking systems are. Do you have a million different Excel spreadsheets? Is that efficient for you, or is there something where you could aggregate that? Also, whether putting together reports and understanding best practices is easy for your organization. If it's really hard because you've got things spread across multiple spreadsheets, those spreadsheets are not talking to each other, it's probably pretty difficult to put together a report. So it might be time for a CRM.
Yeah, no one wants multiple spreadsheets with a bunch of data everywhere.
Oh no, it's the worst. It's a good way to like lose track of things for sure. But also you need to ask yourself, like, what are the gaps in my data? Are there questions that I'm being asked about our services or our donors that I'm not able to answer? Because that's an area where you probably need to start collecting some data so you can answer the question eventually. And I say eventually because it's not an immediate thing. The minute you start collecting data is not the minute you're going to get an answer to your problem. And then last but not least, ask yourself, is your current data being utilized as it should be? Because sometimes organizations collect too much data and then only use a small portion of it. So making sure that what you're tracking is actually what you need to know in order to report and exist and improve your practices over time.
Yeah, and something I think is really important is somebody also who understands how to connect the dots between the data. So there might be a plethora of data, and I say this a lot with social media, is we get overwhelmed with the metrics, but what do those actually mean in terms of the business goals that we have for our organization? So I think that's a really good point. And to have somebody who can understand the data and help you dissect it to allow you to make business decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's sort of two kinds of organizations, the kinds that have a ton of data and don't know what to do with it, and the organizations that don't even know where to start collecting data, but want to talk about their work.
Right.
So, and those are both people who a CRM could be perfect for if you find the right solution that doesn't sort of limit them or overwhelm them at the same time.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
A couple other questions that are more about how you're going to implement the data. It's really important to consider before you go running to purchase a system that you understand what practical support you already have on your team. Is there somebody with enough like technical ability to be the administrator of the database, or is that something you're going to have to hire for or need a consultant like us to bring in and sort of help you set those processes and train everybody? The other thing that's really important that I think a lot of people don't consider is whether you have the technical components to support a database. Are your computers up to date? Is your Wi-Fi good enough to support this? Do you have the hardware if you are going to be out taking notes in the field on the database? Making sure that you are sort of in the place where this database makes sense for your staff. A lot of folks are used to working on sort of a desktop version, and now going web-based means that there's different things that we need to be concerned about when it comes to data accuracy over time. It's not just, oh, we can only put data in this one place. It's everybody has the ability to update this data, and so we need to be careful with it so that it doesn't get deleted, it doesn't get sort of written over, all of those things. So some of the main CRM features that are really important that you should be looking for good, robust like modules in a CRM are detailed constituent profiles. Either that is a question about who your donors are, really good foundation profiles that collect all of the data that you would need on foundations, corporate gift, volunteer profiles already set up. Volunteers are super common within nonprofits. If a CRM doesn't have a form set up for volunteers that you can adjust and customize to your organization, that CRM is maybe not far enough along to be ready for your work. Especially if
they have everything built out for the people that are within your organization, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're like, I worked for CASA of Los Angeles. That is a like 90% volunteer run organization. So it would be crazy to go with a CRM that doesn't already have a detailed volunteer profile module set up. So make sure you're looking for the right kinds of profiles for the people that you are going to be tracking in your database.
Right. That makes sense.
The other thing is gift management, custom web-based donation forms. Can this plug in across your different platforms? Is it usable on your website? Does it integrate with Eventbrite and Squarespace and MailChimp and all of those other major tools that you're probably using?
The donation widget is one of the biggest points that I always try and bring up because, and I'll just take this off for a hot second, your website, and if I would challenge you to look at, I've been preaching about this all year, I feel like, to look at your Google Analytics and understand your desktop and mobile users. I have seen a lot of organizations that have a not updated or fully mobile responsive donate process when it comes to mobile. So if you are sending them to a different site, if there's a really long form that's daunting, you're going to lose people as soon as they have to keep doing the scroll. So really think about a CRM platform that gives you, I love the ones from Fundraise does this, Fundraise Up, I think Classy, that has like the widget and it like keeps pushing you through the boxes that allows movement, right? Instead of just like a long daunting form. So that's just something to think about in terms of what Jessica is talking about with donation forms. That's a really big piece, and why there is quite a significant drop off in a conversion rate with donate forms is because they're not thought of as far as how a user will go through, and you don't want to lose them as they're about to give you a donation. After they've committed to the donate button, you don't want to lose them in the form process.
Yeah. One really sort of underutilized thing that I think is really important that nonprofits should think about is being able to differentiate between which fund a donor is donating to. Because a lot of people don't care. They're willing to throw their money into sort of the larger bucket of funds for an organization. But some people are very interested in funding specific things, and you want to give people the opportunity to choose as much as possible, because the more sort of concretely people feel that they are contributing to your cause with sort of impact goals, the better. And not all CRMs have that ability to differentiate between the different types of funds that somebody is donating to.
Yeah, and I would say also on the note, it's really important to have a really great CRM that can, if it's important to you, which I think it should be, to have a recurring donation process.
Yes, absolutely. Other main features to think about are reporting and analytics. You should have a bunch of built-in standard reports that everybody is going to need, like who is donating, how often are they donating. That should be built in standard. You shouldn't have to create those reports on your own, but you should be able to create ad hoc reports that are customized to your organization as well. You shouldn't have to ask the CRM company, the software, to create custom reports for you. That to me would be a big red flag and probably a deal breaker if you couldn't do ad hoc reporting. And there are absolutely products on the market right now that don't allow you to do that. So they only give you those canned standard reports. Also, make sure that your CRM has some ability to at least integrate with your email communications, like Constant Contact or MailChimp. A lot of CRMs have good email communications within them as well. But make sure that you can automate receipts, run appeals specifically through that CRM, automate thank yous, and get really good reminders set up for donors. So a couple things to look for. Make sure from a sort of aesthetics perspective, the layout is easy to understand. There's a dashboard of the key stats. It's also really important that you can customize that dashboard for the same reason that no database is ever perfect right out of the box. No dashboard is going to have the most important stats to every single organization they work with. So a customizable dashboard, super important.
Yep.
Online accessibility, I would not at this point work with a desktop-based version. I would only go online, accessible, web-based. There are some desktop-based versions still out there. I would avoid it. And then make sure that your permission sets meaning the different levels of people that are accessing your data are really easy to control. So you can control people's privacy and create, if you need to, HIPAA compliance within your data so that there's some data security is really important. Also, customization. You should be allowed to import data from other databases yourself. Right. If you don't have a batch upload feature in your CRM, major red flag. I would maybe, that would be a deal breaker for me if I couldn't batch upload. And again, there are databases out there that don't let you sort of mass import from like an Excel spreadsheet yourself. It's still controlled by the software like vendor.
Interesting.
Run in the other direction if you find that is a major problem. Also make sure like it's not, nobody should have to learn HTML or any kind of coding in order to work with this database. It should be like easy setup.
And there's so many out there that are beautifully designed that if that is the case, if you are having somebody tell you should do that, don't use that platform.
Yeah, can't remember which one it was recently that we were in that they could only use the email function with HTML. And I was like, why? That's ridiculous.
Nuts. Yeah. Catch up with the times.
Yeah, so silly. And then unlimited form building. You shouldn't be charged per form that you create. You don't want to build unlimited form because that's unlimited data in different spaces. You want to sort of aggregate your data. But I've come across databases that will charge you per form that you create. And that is silly as well. And then last but not least, make sure you look for really good support in a CRM. You want integration with other software, Zapier, MailChimp, all of those sort of big softwares you might be using. Ask about them. So now what? Make sure you do your research, create a matrix of features that are really important to you that you know are the sort of deal breakers. And rank those. Ask for demos. I would do no less than 3 demos so that you get a sense of what's out there generally. Make sure you're consulting with a regular user as well, to talk to them like what were the surprises? What were the things that they sold you on?
I love this point to talk to somebody who's actually in there and to ask the platform if they'll recommend some people for you to talk to.
Yeah. And there are plenty of forums out there. You could find somebody that's a user that's not recommended because the software company is obviously going to recommend you somebody that's happy, not somebody that is frustrated. So true. Good to sort of do your user review searches. And then last but not least, make sure that they give you some kind of like sandbox is what they call it, which is just like sort of a dummy login that you can log in and just sort of poke around and see how easy it is to find things, whether you like the layout. That's really important. So there are a bunch of different kinds of databases, but CRMs can be super affordable. Your subscription should be monthly or annual. They should give you an option. Usually, if you're willing to pay up front annually, you'll get a little bit of a discount. But they can start as low as $40 a month. That's out of the box without customization. But oftentimes, the subscription rate is tiered based on how many records you have.
I've heard records and also based upon how many transactions you'll be having throughout the year.
Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of pricing. Just like other subscription-based services where you have to upgrade when you hit a certain like limit. Some databases have setup costs up front where in addition you have to pay an extra like $1,500 to get everything customized according to your organization. Some databases are like when you buy a house and they just give you the keys and say, here you go, do what you will.
Yeah. And that's where it really comes down to assessing the features and what you want. How much support do you want? How much of a self-service platform do you want? Yeah. All of that can vary.
There's a big sort of variety there, and that should go into your decision making, is how much do you want to customize it yourself versus how much do you want somebody else to customize it for you? And those are both going to cost time and money. I won't get into client outcomes or AMS databases because we're not talking about those, but just consider those are other databases that you might need down the road. But a bunch of questions that the database company might ask you are how many people on your staff are going to need logins. Sometimes databases will charge based on those number of logins rather than the amount of data. I think Salesforce does that. They're also going to ask you, related to that, how many constituents or records are you going to want to import into that system so they know how much space you're going to take up, and how much you expect to grow over time. They're going to ask you what integrations you need as well. We've talked about that. They're going to ask you where you're coming from. Are you in Excel spreadsheets? Because those might be a little bit easier to import versus are you going to have to pull down data out of another database and then put it in theirs. So that impacts pricing and setup. They're also going to want you to designate an administrator on your team as the sort of point person for them to talk to. So knowing that ahead of time is really important. They're also going to ask you about your pain points and what they can fix for you. And then they're going to focus on how you can do that.
Right, of course.
And maybe distract you from that matrix. So make sure you keep that matrix that you've created in mind of those important features and not just get caught up in the pain points. And then red flags. I mean, we've talked about a lot of these. No batch upload, very scary to me. They don't have any integrations. Oh, that's a problem. We don't live in that world anymore.
Yeah, I love these. These are so good to know. If you are watching, screenshot it. I will save this presentation. These are amazing to go through as far as any red flags. This is awesome. This is such great information. I wanted to ask you, thank you for sharing these with us. Do you have any CRMs that are kind of your favorites off the top of your head?
I wouldn't say favorites, but the ones that we worked with most often are Salsa, Salesforce, which I put a big asterisk with because Salesforce is a little bit tricky and it's way too big a product for a lot of organizations. So I'm very careful about who we think is the right Salesforce fit. But Salsa, Bloomerang, Little Green Light, all of those are great. You can customize it. They are sort of at a variety of different price points. So I also like Zoho as a really introductory product for people.
Oh, interesting. ZOHO?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll put that one in here too.
So that one starts really low cost. It needs more customization, but it's not difficult at all. So
that's good to know.
It's like kind of a good antidote to Salesforce in some ways.
Awesome. Amazing. Jessica, this has been so helpful. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, learn more about the incubator maybe, or these? Most of my audience, I think, is going to be already established. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's more of the Mockingbird versus the incubator.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us on mockingbird.analytics.com. Feel free to sign up. I'm always happy to chat with people. We have a calendar on our website. You can choose a time. And then we're on Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places.
Is it .com or .org?
.com.
Awesome. Put it in the chat. Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for joining me today. And hopefully we'll be able to get together soon. I'm currently in Atlanta. She's in Los Angeles. The world's getting better. We were just talking about our vaccines. But Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, it was great.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining today. I hope this information about CRMs was really beneficial. It's one of the topics that I have not brought up enough, and it's really important. One of the main things that I think helps create a strong movement in an organization is your systems and your processes. You want to be able to automate what your staff is doing buy a system and a tool so your staff can be working on bigger and better things, spreading awareness for your organization versus being stuck in spreadsheets all day long, right? And it's always great to be able to have a system that can pull easy reports and data for you. So I think a CRM is 100% worth it. I'm going to do some more research on a few of these that Jessica mentioned, and I will put them into a blog post to share with you. But if there are any that you love, again, referrals are amazing. So drop them in the comments. You're so welcome. College Community Center, I see you. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their Wednesday. Bye, everyone.